Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Brothers. Assalamu alaikum. Can you guys please take a seat and clear the area in the back so we can set up the chairs? Brothers, please clear the area in the back so we can set up the chairs. Jazakumullah khair.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihil ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een amma ba'd. Okay, so let's continue just so we can save time. I usually like to let people go at 9:30, not 10 o'clock. So I have some stuff to cover. Hello, sisters, brothers. All right, so okay, so before the break, we were talking about the depth of the seerah. And we're going to talk about some techniques tonight on how to appreciate that depth, okay? So let me not get ahead of myself here. That's one of the lessons we learn in the class. So it's not me telling you this story and then you go home. It's us contemplating together, getting to learn how to look at the seerah with a lot more depth. One of the things we do in the class, and tonight, inshallah, I'll give you an example of how one little detail, a story that you knew your whole life, will just add one little detail, and one, you'll say, I never saw that angle before, inshallah. Two, you'll say, you'll never see the story the same way again, ever again. It completely changes the story. Details are the key. They're the lessons, the gems, the wisdoms of the seerah, all in the details, not just the story level. You don't need to take a class on the story level of the seerah. But once you get how to go in depth into the seerah, then you'll never need anyone else's analysis again. One of the other things we do is we learn where the seerah came from. Like if I say, give me the oldest seerah book you can think of, somebody's going to say Sirat ibn Hisham. Or someone might say Sirat ibn Ishaq. But we don't really have a complete seerah of Ibn Ishaq. So, and where did Ibn Ishaq get his material from? Where did Ibn Hisham get his material from? And they were not companions, so where did they get their material from? So we actually go through, let's just call it a chain of where the seerah came from. Who were the earliest writers of the seerah? And then we're going to link it to their students, to their students, to their students, to a book that's on your bookshelf at home right now, or on PDF on your Kindle. And we're the only ummah on the planet that can do that. Most people, they don't know who wrote their history. Napoleon, what he did, what they wrote about George Washington. How do you know that's what happened? How do you know that's what he said? Did the person who wrote it down, did someone ask him, were you there? Who did you hear it from? And he said, yes, I got it from fulan, an fulan, an. They don't have that system. We're the only people that have that system. We're the only people that can authenticate every point in Muslim history. Every point in Muslim history. Going to the Abbasid dynasty, the Umayyad dynasty, you can verify and authenticate every point in history. No other nation on the planet can do that. Not the Chinese, not the European, nobody can do it. We're the only ones that can do that. And we still don't fully appreciate it. One time someone gave a khutbah on Islamic history. Someone got up to critique it. He said, don't talk about history because we can't verify any of this stuff. La ya habib, you got it all wrong. We're the only ummah that can verify their history. Others can't. They just have to take it. And that's why you see all these new facts that come about what was wrong about history. You guys know that book by Howard Zinn, something like Lies my teacher told me, or my history teacher told me. It's got all the wrong things that we were taught about American history, about world history, that someone just wrote and nobody verified and no one was there to say, yes, I remember that. But we can do that. That's amazing. So we're going to trace back to the earliest writers of seerah, and we're going to link their students all the way to a book that's on your bookshelf right now, so you'll know where it came from. Then we're going to talk about the relationship between the seerah and the Quran, and there is a very strong relationship. And I'll refer to it as a symbiotic relationship. It goes both ways. It benefits both ways. There are some verses in the Quran that you will never ever understand without the seerah, ever. And there are some things about the seerah that are in the Quran, insights that you would never know if Allah didn't tell you. What's happening in people's hearts? How would you know that? But that's this relationship. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to know not just the earliest books of the seerah, but the material, the sources of the seerah. What are they? Where does it come from? We're going to talk about secondary and primary sources of the seerah. And then we're going to look at the different authors of seerah and rank their authenticity. So now, after this class, inshallah, you will understand, let's just call it seerah lingo, seerah language. So if you're reading an advanced seerah book, and you're reading a story, and then it says in the footnotes, you go down to the footnotes, and it says, narrated by al-Waqidi. What does that mean? Okay, well, anything that ends with E sounds very, credible, right? Maliki, al-Waqidi, you're like, Waqidi, yes, very good. Khalas. No, when you understand seerah language, you know that al-Waqidi, we reject his narrations. So now when you see that in the bottom, you're like, I understand. And we'll also look at some of the weak narrations. Like some of the narrations are very popular, but they're weak. And we'll understand why the scholars allowed weak narrations in the seerah, but they didn't allow them in fiqh books, for example. And there are many of these weak narrations. Some of them you're already familiar with. Like for example, when the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr, when they left for Medina, they went and stayed in the cave of Hira for 3 days, 3 days, 3 nights, right? So everybody knows that story. But then here's the weak narration. It's actually not a weak narration, it's a very weak narration. That a spider came and then it built its web over the entrance of the cave. And so the Quraysh, they reached the cave and they're like, oh, no, don't go inside there. They were white for some reason. No, don't go in there. Because there's a spider web. There's no way someone went inside because there's a spider web there. First of all, if they would have watched the Discovery Channel, they would know that it only takes a spider an hour to build a web. So somebody could have walked in an hour and a half ago. I'm kidding. You get it. Thank you. So we were told when we were growing up, don't kill spiders, because a spider saved the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Then when we discovered that narration was weak, we had to kill twice as more spiders just to make up for lost time. Now you're thinking, oh, but you just ruined the story for me. You just took the miracle away. No, it did not take the miracle away. It's more of a miracle now that they traced their steps until the mouth of the cave, and they could have just looked down and seen the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr. That's why Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, if one of them just looks down, they'll see us. And the Prophet ﷺ tells him, be quiet, Ya Abu Bakr. What do you think of two whom Allah is their third? The story is more powerful now. It wasn't a spider web. It's not like they saw the spider web, they looked, you can see through a spider web. It's not like where are they? Oh, I can see them through the web. Yeah, but if it wasn't for the spider web, we would have come through, but we can't, It wasn't a big deal. The big deal now is that they could have just looked down and seen them, and they didn't, because Allah was their third. So now the story is more powerful. Anyways, that's an example of a very weak narration. Now, I have good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. When the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina, all the people of Medina came out and they started to sing, طَلَعَ الْبَدْرُ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ ثَنِيَةِ الْوَدَاعِ. Weak narration. You're like, what? I want to hear that. Now you're going to ruin that for me? I want a refund now. I'm not taking this class. Wait, I said there's good news. So here's why. So one, the narration is weak. Two, Thaniyat al-Wada' is like an area or a station where you would bid people farewell. And Thaniyat al-Wada' is not in the direction of Mecca to Medina. It's actually in the direction of Medina to Sham. And so the more authentic narration is that when the Prophet ﷺ was returning from Tabuk, the Muslims went out and sang that song. Why? Because first of all, Thaniyat al-Wada' correctly is in that direction. Number two, the majority of people are Muslim now. That's why they're singing to him. If the majority are non-Muslim, why are they going out and singing? When does that happen? You have a guest speaker coming and then non-Muslims line outside the masjid. Hey. So So that's the majority were Muslim. And why are they singing? Because the Prophet ﷺ was severely outnumbered. He was going to go into a battle against the Eastern, the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, Ghassan and the Eastern Roman Empire, and he was severely outnumbered, and people were afraid for his safety. So when he came back safely, they went out singing. But remember, I said I have good news. And one of the good news, one of the scholars argued that there also could have been more than one Thaniyat al-Wada, a place to bid people farewell. So you can still sing the song and cry, inshallah. Okay? Anyways, so we'll identify weak narrations as we go along. We're going to talk about the classical books of Sirah, and then we're going to look at some of the contemporary and the new books of Sirah and critique them. Each one has a strong point, a weak point. If you want the beautiful flowing story, read this book. If you want to read the story with details, read this book. If you want just the lessons of the Sirah, not the details, read that book. We're going to talk about that, and you have some books listed in the back of your notes. Don't look at them now. We're going to talk about them tomorrow. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me your favorite Sirah books, what books you're reading currently, your critique of them. Right? So you know where to go for what next time. I'm going to give you 3 or 4 books. If you read them, you will be a champion in the Sirah, inshallah. You will know details, you'll know narrations that are authentic from weak, and you will know lessons and wisdoms. That's all you need, right? Okay. So, then we're going to do something I call stories you thought you knew. And so these are the stories that we always hear in a specific way, but they're actually very different than how we hear them. And I'm not going to give too many examples. I'll give one example tonight without the details. Very popularly in people's minds, when the Prophet ﷺ was coming back from Taif, the angel of the mountains came to him and offered to crush, the narration says, the people of the city between the mountains. And so what happens? People fill in the blank. It just says the people of the city. And then, actually it doesn't even say the city, أن أطبق عليهم الأخشبين. And so people will think the angel offered to crush Taif between the mountains because of what they did to you, throwing stones and everything. So he's offering to say, let me crush Taif between the mountains. But he's not. He's saying, let me crush the people of Mecca between the mountains. Mecca. But I hear every khutbah, every speech is about Taif. Yeah, but the narration never says Taif. And there is overwhelmingly strong evidence that it was Mecca and not Taif. You want to know what that is? That's a discussion Sunday morning, inshallah, when we... that's on Sunday morning. You must register, brothers. You must. Yeah. We're not messing around here, people. This is the Sirah of the Prophet ﷺ. Sirah is deep. I always wanted to do a show called Sirah Be Deep. Starts off, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome y'all to Sirah Be Deep. Because it's deep, people. It's very, very deep. Okay, so we're going to learn where the Sirah came from. We're going to learn to look at the in-depth lessons of the Sirah. And I'm going to talk tonight about how to see the Sirah in depth, or how to get into the details. We're going to identify weak narrations, look at stories that you thought you knew, and the other, what I call when the story changes. A story that you've known your whole life, we're going to give an example of that tonight. And then because you go in details, it changes. And you never see it the same way. And you're like, I've known this story my whole life, but I never saw this angle. And this angle completely changes it now. That's how deep the Sirah is. Let me tell you something. How many of you have read that book, Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Okay, very good. That's a must read, all right? Now, I remember when I first read that book, I was upset. Every chapter I would get upset because the book was written in the 1940s by Dale Carnegie. And I would get to this chapter and it'll be a technique on how to deal with people and how to talk to people. And I'll be like, man, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used this technique on the battle of this and this with the companion such and such. Then the next chapter, he'll talk about a technique and how to deal with people. Oh man, the Prophet ﷺ used this technique in the battle of Uhud. And so you start to realize that our ummah had the techniques for 1,400 years ago. And now someone comes so much later and tells us what our Prophet taught us 1,400 years ago. So what's the problem? The problem is, a lot of times we just look at the Sirah as a story. We don't go in depth and pull out lessons and wisdoms. And if we did that, we would have been the one writing that book. He would have been stealing it from the Muslims. But we're behind in analyzing the Sirah, and sometimes we underestimate the amount of depth that's in the seerah. It's deep. You can keep analyzing. Let me tell you something. This is an exercise we're going to do tonight, inshallah. So one of the more detailed seerah books. Two of my favorite books. One of them mentions 4 wisdoms why the Prophet ﷺ was a shepherd before becoming a prophet. And he said, ﷺ, in more than one narration, he said, "Ma min nabiyyin illa ra'i ghanam. Ma min nabiyyin illa waqad ra'al ghanam." There has not been a prophet except he herded sheep or goats. So every prophet did this job first before becoming a prophet. That means there must be something about herding sheep or goats that prepares you for being a prophet. Much so than coding, for example, or IT. Actually, that's the opposite. You become bad with people. I'm kidding to the nerds in the town. No, I'm just kidding, right? So, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah Azza wa Jal chose this job, this profession for all His prophets. That means there are some things that you learn from that. One of my favorite seerah book mentions 4 wisdoms why prophets were shepherds first. Then another detailed books, one of the longest lists I've ever seen, mentions 7 wisdoms. 7 wisdoms why the prophets were shepherds first. We're going to do this exercise inshallah tonight. Do you have any idea how many wisdoms you guys are going to give me? Close to 30. I'm going to say it again, pretend you're amazed. Do you have any idea how many wisdoms you guys are going to give me? Close to 30. Why? Because look at the number of people in this room contemplating. That will always be better than one person, no matter how knowledgeable, no matter how intelligent. One person contemplating is not like a room full of people contemplating. And we're going to look at it from different angles. Whatever you study, even whatever mode you're in or mood you're in, you see different things, right? Sometimes you read the seerah when you're in trouble, you can connect with it in a different way than when everything's okay. True? You've experienced that? Just like the Quran, right? Read the Quran when you have some problem or calamity in life. It resonates with you in a different way than when everything is okay. Yeah? So even you yourself will see different lessons in a story in different points in your life. So now when we get everyone in the room, we're getting all this out. We're going to consider such fine points. I'm going to tell you something. And it's hard for me to push this class without coming off like I'm, like it's showing off or something. But I'm going to remind you, inshallah, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, whenever this happens, there are some points that are specific to this class. There are some discussion points that I guarantee you, bi'idhnillah, you will not find in any book or in any lecture on the seerah. They're specific to Desert Rose, this class. You understand what I'm saying? And I know it sounds like, who does this guy think he is? But you will see tomorrow, inshallah. You will see. Discussion points no one ever can, you will not find in books, you will not find in any other class. You'll find it right here. Because we're bringing up these points together. You might even ask me a question that I've never heard of, and you might give me the answer. And I love when students get in that mode. Students get in the depth mode that they start to think of questions I never considered. I'll give you, if I can remember, 2 smart questions students have asked me before. One of them came up to me and he said, why is it that when Khabbab ibn al-Arat, you know Khabbab radiallahu anhu? If you want to talk, if you hear the word torture, you think of Khabbab radiallahu anhu. He was of the companions that was so tortured that decades later, during the reign of Umar ibn Khattab, he uncovered his back and Umar couldn't believe it. He said, "Ma ra'aytuka al-yawmi ajaba." What is this? From how his back was just welts and damage and holes in it. Eyewitnesses said the Quraysh brought stones and they lit them until they became red hot. Then they removed the clothes off the back of Khabbab radiallahu anhu and they made him lie down on these stones. And the eyewitnesses said nothing but the fat, nothing extinguished the stones except the fat from his back melting and putting out the stones. Can you imagine standing there and just smelling, you think it's barbecue, but it's your brother. Really, really bad. Khabbab radiallahu anhu, he went through this torture, he comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He doesn't complain, he doesn't ask for a miracle. He came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was laying down near the Kaaba. He said, Ya Rasulullah, ألا تدعو لنا ألا تستنصر لنا. That's all. He didn't complain. He said, Ya Rasulullah, look, he didn't do any of that. He just said, why don't you make dua for us? And why don't you ask for a victory for us? And the Prophet ﷺ sat up. And he said, the nations before you, they would bring a man, dig a hole in the ground, put him in it. Then they start to saw him in half. Yeah, you want to feel that? The saw is going through your scalp like this, through your skin. Then it starts to hit your skull and you can hear it. Then it cuts through your skull. Now it starts to touch your brain. What happens when that's happening? You start to see things, flashes, and then it cuts through the person completely. And that would not make them leave their religion. And they would bring a man and tie him down on the ground and bring like a rake or some kind of thick rake and separate the flesh from his bones. And that would not make them leave his religion. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But you are a people who are hasty. So the student said, when Khabbab said, Ya Rasulullah, make dua, the Prophet told him, you're hasty. And then later on, when the Quraysh put Sal al-Jazur, the intestines of the camel, on the back of the Prophet ﷺ, he finished the salah and made dua out loud and called them out by name and made dua against them. He said, why is it that when Khabbab was attacked, the Prophet ﷺ told him, you're hasty, and when the Prophet ﷺ was attacked, he made dua? You like that question? It's a very smart question actually. And actually when the person asked me that question, I never thought of it before. I never considered that question before. But so I shared it with the class and I said, Yalla, give me reasons, give me wisdoms. And the answers are there in your head. Contemplate, and the students came out with some brilliant answers. Now I kind of regret now that I did all this build up because I don't want to tell the answer now because I have other stuff to do. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I know that's really bad. Like I shouldn't have done that. But if you really want to know and you can't take the class, like look at the person to your left or right. Are you taking the class? If they are, just like exchange phone numbers and get the answer from them, inshallah. But I can't get into it now, but it's good stuff. But you agree with the question? Yeah? Anyways. So, oh yeah, okay. So that's the gist of the material. Then we're going to do three major stories and like 3 minor stories. Obviously, you can imagine we cannot cover all the Meccan seerah. So I'm not trying to spoon feed you the seerah or tell you the whole story of the Meccan seerah. I want us to understand the books, which are strong, the narrations, authentic, not where the seerah came from, to get in that mode of knowing how to come up with lessons and wisdoms. So now you can go on your own and read whatever book and you can stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need anyone to hold your hand through the seerah. That's the whole point. And we're going to do that through looking at specific stories. We're going to go into in detail. The story of the Prophet's journey to Al-Ta'if, the Isra and Mi'raj journey, the Hijrah journey. These will be the major stories. Now, the minor stories, let me see here. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Very good. The minor stories will be the immigration to Abyssinia, the Islam of Umar. There's some lessons we want to focus on there. And one more minor story, but this is how it's going to be. Now, the other thing I'll tell you in advance, Saturday would all be technical stuff and Sunday will all be stories and analysis and contemplations. But that makes Saturday quite dry. So what I do is do half the technical stuff on Saturday and then do one of the major stories and contemplate its wisdoms. And then Sunday, we finish the rest of the technical stuff and then we do the rest of the stories. Sound fair? Makes it fun. All right, 2 people agree. That's good enough for me. Excellent. Now, we're on page 8, first page. So page 8, we're gonna do page 8 and then two or so other pages, inshallah. So in page 8, we begin by talking about what is the meaning of seerah linguistically, Islamically. So linguistically, sara yasiru, to follow, set out on a way, to traverse. Now, but when we use it Islamically, when I say this class is on the seerah, and I'm using the term Islamically, everybody knows what we're talking about. When we say the seerah, we know that we're specifically talking about the biography of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not the seerah of Abu Bakr or the seerah of anyone else, but specifically the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it says the study of his life sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all that is related to it from birth until passing. From birth until passing. Now, why study the seerah? You don't really, if you just know that this is the greatest man ever created by Allah, you don't have to ask that question. Because whenever we hear about something with EST, the smartest man in the world, we want to know, what do they do? What happens? What made them so smart? Richest man in the world. And you immediately click. You know, people, anything with rich people, smart people, they want to do it. Have breakfast. What do CEOs have for breakfast? And then you click and you discover they have fried eggs and you have fried eggs for a month and it's still broke, mashallah. Because it has nothing to do with that. But the fact that we just hear something with EST, we want to learn from that person. Smartest man in the world. Fastest man in the world. Strongest man in the world. Click. Richest man in the world. Click. And people assume you're smart if you're rich, even if you're dumb. I don't have to give too many examples. It's fantastic, I got to tell you. Right? The minute you have some money, people think you're smart. Now, a long time ago, I saw Donald Trump had this workshop on how to make money. And it was like $3,000 to take this, all-day workshop and what have you. And it's like, so if I'm really rich, why am I charging poorer people to give me money so I can teach them how to be rich? That's just from there, you should have been like, no, I'll pass. Anyways, so obviously I didn't take his class or anything, for two reasons. One, I'm not interested. Two, I don't have $3,000, okay? Now, I heard parts of it, and I'm like, this is the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. It's so dumb. It's really, really dumb. Like, I'll give you an actual thing he said in that course. He said, this is a long time ago, right? This could have been 99, early 2000, I'm not sure. But he said, don't hang out with rich, successful people. Hang out with losers. You feel better about yourself. I'm not making this up. Dumb, yeah? That's just one excerpt. That's dumb enough, right? Anyways, but people are sitting in the front row like this. Why? Because the guy's rich. Khalas, he's rich, he's smart, But anyways, richest, I want to see what they eat. This is, what kind of soap does Bill Gates use? Click, I'll buy it bukra, naharda, I'm going to go buy that soap. Thammam, you still smell like flowers, you're still broke. So, if all you knew about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he's the greatest man ever to walk the face of the earth, you'd be like, I don't need any other reason. I want to know about this man, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. True? Okay. But there's some other benefits of the seerah. Number one, proof of prophethood. You can analyze the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu. Was this a real prophet or is this an imposter? Through this, and this is an exercise I'm going to show you on Sunday night. You heard in the introduction that I have this workshop called How to Give Shahada in 10 Minutes. And actually, this is one of the first cities ever. It was the first city ever where I gave that workshop, somewhere like 12 years ago or more. And who remembers that? No one was alive from 12 years? No? Okay. So, anyways, if you ask me what is the most powerful da'wah exercise that you know that could work with a Jew, a Christian, an agnostic, a Muslim who has doubts, or an atheist. And I'll tell you it's this technique that I'm going to show you Sunday night. I'm not going to do it in class. I'm going to show you where to find it online because that saves me time. It's like it can be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to do the exercise with a non-Muslim. You literally need a pen, a paper, and a kafir. I'm not making it up. That's what you need. These are the ingredients, right? And let me tell you something. They either get up from that meeting a Muslim, or they'll get up knowing Islam is the truth. I just can't become Muslim right now. But they'll get up knowing Islam is the truth. How do we do it? By analyzing the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Was he a genuine prophet or an imposter? Is this how an imposter behaves? If he were an imposter, he would behave this way. But a genuine prophet behaves that way. And it's the whole exercise we go through. And it's one of the most powerful, it is the most powerful da'wah technique that I personally have. And I developed it, and I want to make sure I'm not introducing something weird to the ummah, so I showed it to one of the scholars. And this sheikh, if he likes something, as you're talking, he does a half smile. Sometimes I show him things and he's just like this. I already know the answer. But that day I was explaining to him, he was like this the whole time. When it's done, he was like, I like it. Then I found out a year later that night when I showed it to him, 2 weeks later he used it, he got a shahada with it. It's very, very powerful. I'll show it to you Sunday night, inshallah. Anyways, proof of prophethood. Proof of prophethood. Number 2, to learn from its lessons and wisdoms. That's the whole point. What a shame to have a story so full of lessons, gems, and wisdoms, and you just read it and skim through, just race through all the stories and wisdoms. Stop for a moment, and it becomes more valuable. Next, it aids in understanding the Quran. You're going to see that Saturday morning, inshallah. It teaches you to love the Prophet ﷺ if you don't. Because some people, new Muslims or Muslims who weren't practicing, as like one new Muslim said, he said, I know I'm supposed to love the Prophet ﷺ more than myself, but to be honest, I don't yet, because I don't know anything about him. And that's fair. Is it fair or not? Imagine I tell you, listen up you guys, there's a guy, his name is Hassan Abdul Ghafoor. All of you have to love Hassan Abdul Ghafoor more than yourselves, starting now. Yalla. Yalla, do you love Hassan Abdul Ghafoor more than yourself? You'll be like, who on earth is this Hassan Abdul Ghafoor? I don't know anything about him. I can't even hate him hatta. But I'm starting to hate him now because of you. Sah? So if you don't know the Prophet ﷺ, how are you going to love him? So it teaches you to love the Prophet ﷺ. And if you already love him, and inshallah everyone in the room does, it increases. True or false? You just listen to a khutbah on the seerah. You walk out of the masjid loving the Prophet ﷺ more. You read a book on the seerah, you love him more. It also teaches you to love the Sahaba. And if you already love them, it teaches you to increase your love of the Sahaba, true or false. And you wonder, how can someone's religion be, you know who I'm talking about, right? You know and I know and Allah knows. Let's just keep it like that. How can someone's religion be to hate the Sahaba? How can you read the Battle of Uhud and see how Talha radiallahu anhu defended the Prophet ﷺ so much with his right hand that it became paralyzed? He protected the blessed face of the Prophet ﷺ until his hand became paralyzed, and then you hate Talha at the end of the story. How do you even do that? It's not even, you would think it's not even humanly possible, true or false? Yeah? When you love someone, you love those that love him, true? And when you love someone, you love the ones they love. Yes? Sport fans here, what's your team here? What's the team in the city? There's no team here? What is it called? Muskrats? What are you saying? Yeah, brothers. Now sisters are telling me sport team. Say it. What's the sports team? They're that bad, you're all embarrassed, huh? Fadiha. Buckeyes? Well, they must be bad. I've never heard of them. I don't know anything about sports, but I know strong teams from weak teams because I always hear about strong teams. I don't follow sports, but they just come across. I hear about the Cowboys, even though I hate them. I hear about the 49ers. I hear about, but I don't know this Buckeyes thing. Cavaliers, they're good. Are they good? Yeah? I'm from Virginia, and we have a football team there called the Redskins. And I always tell people, look, I know you support the home team and everything, but the Redskins is a horrible, horrible team. And then they go like this, it was strong in the 80s. I'm like, that's proof that it's a horrible team. When you have to go back 3 decades ago and tell me, we used to be strong in 1976. Like, kind of a horrible team is that? You have to go back 4 decades. Anyways, طيب, خلاص. So, if you are in South Africa and you see someone with the Buckeyes t-shirt, what happens to you? You don't even know him. What happens? Immediately. Hey. صح ولا لا? Immediately. Someone likes your same sport. You connect immediately. True? So anyways, the fact that the Prophet ﷺ loved his companions so much makes you naturally love them. The fact that they loved him so much makes you naturally love them. So I don't know how you can read that and hate them. That's weird. It goes against nature, Some of you watched a movie where the bad guy is bad, but he's also the main character. And then you find yourself on his side. Police are coming, like, I hope he gets away. Right? I always tell people, hypothetically, the story about this girl, and she likes this guy, and her father is depicted as the evil one, even though her father here, taqi, right? But in the movie, he's the evil one. He's the one that's stopping their undying love. And in the last scene, the father is sleeping, and the girl is going to steal his car keys, and the boyfriend is waiting outside. They're going to steal his keys, and they're going to go live haram ever after. So what happens? father is snoring, and the music is tense, and then she picks up the keys, and the keys tinkle a little bit, clink, clink, and he goes, and then you're like, Inshallah, Ya Rabbi, he doesn't wake up. Then you stop yourself, like, wait a minute now. Inshallah, he wakes up, he beats her with his shoes. What do I care? What I'm trying to say is that it's not, you can't help the natural, pity, natural love that happens. So how can you read the seerah and hate the companions? You know who I'm talking about. You know, I know, Allah knows. That's enough. Let's keep it there. Shia. خايفين يعني ولا it's a secret? Yeah, the Shia. Sometimes you see the Shia brother comes to you, brother, don't split the ummah. Habibi, it split before I was born. Don't worry about it, huh? I didn't split it now. Are you splitting the ummah? It was a long time ago when the split happened. I had nothing to do with it, I guarantee you. طيب, you read the seerah so you know how to follow the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you can follow the Prophet in every example. And no matter what you go through, the Prophet went through it. If you lose a spouse, he lost a spouse. If you lose a child, he lost a child. More than once. He lost more than one spouse, more than one child. If you lose wealth, he lost wealth. You know what? If you lose your camel. No, wait. If you lose your luggage, Prophet lost his luggage. You've lost luggage before? And in Hajj, maybe they lost your bags. The Prophet lost his bags at Hajj. Everything you can experience, Prophet went through. If you have a bad neighbor, Prophet had 3 bad neighbors. Can you have 3 bad neighbors? Yani what if right now I said, who's got an evil neighbor? And some of you put your hands up. Then I said, who has 2 evil neighbors? And then like 2 of you had their hands up. Then I said, who has 3 evil neighbors? And then 1 of you just kept their hand up. What are we all gonna think? Let's be honest. We're gonna think, I betcha he's the... It's not his neighbors, it's him. What are the odds 3 of your neighbors? Not one of them is nice. How are you doing today, sir? Not one of them is nice. There must be something wrong with you. But the Prophet ﷺ had 3 bad neighbors. And they would take their trash and throw it over the wall into his house. Now, if I woke up in the morning and my neighbor threw his trash into my house, and I collect it and I throw it back in his house, we're even. True? I just gave him his trash back, right? But I wouldn't do that. I'll have my son urinate in it first. We'll leave it in the sun, and then we throw it. I'll teach you throw trash. احنا عرب يا ابوي تعرف. You're messing with the wrong guy, brother. But the Prophet wouldn't even do that. He wouldn't even collect it and put it back in their house. He would just collect it, and then he would say out loud, أهذا حق الجوار? أهذا حق الجوار? Is this the right of the neighbor? That's it. What a man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But whatever you can experience, he went through it. And so you can follow his example for real when you read the seerah. Next, to raise our hopes and lift our spirits. That's so true. And sometimes when you go through a difficulty, you can connect with the difficult days of the seerah a lot more than when everything is okay. A lot more. And it also tells you how to act at times of difficulty. And a lot of times people lost that lesson. Yani after 9/11, so I lived in Northern Virginia, which is the Washington, D.C. area. So crackdown was hard on the Muslim community after 9/11. But people forgot all the lessons in the seerah. They forgot that this is life. And you read that Meccan seerah and you know how to live through oppression and everything and how to stand up for your right. La, everything was just, there was a surge in sales of Gillette Mach 3 because beards were disappearing faster than surah. Hijabs were flying out. Names were changing. If you were Muhammad, you became Mo. If you were Bilal, you became Billy. And if you were Hassan Abdul Ghafoor, you became Chadwick. Just like that. When a lessons from the seerah and adversity through hardship, all the khutab out the window. One of my friends, he came to ask one of the leaders in our area if he should shave his beard after 9/11. Before he could answer, the guy was like, shave it. Do you think I should shave it? I've got Gillette Mach 3 right here. Shaving cream. Tfaddal. Shave it now in my office. Don't even walk out with it. Shave it, man, shave it. Yeah. They have your picture with it, and it doesn't matter. You can put an earring on, they'll be like, that's Muhammad, get him. Doesn't matter now. But people forgot the lessons. All right. Now, there's a point there. It should be a second point. It's on the same line, but it says to chart out a methodology for da'wah. Let me tell you something. This is a true story. There's one group in one of the Muslim countries that was giving da'wah for a long time, and they had no real presence in the community. So people critiqued them, and they said, look, the Prophet ﷺ in no time changed